Today's tutorial is about how to add in stripes and not have that kind of jog here or join. So often when you add in a colour you'll get a hole or you'll get a kind of a step. And I haven't done a previous one to show you the steps, so you just have to take my word for it. Also, I want to show you how to travel your knitting up. So for instance, I'm going to use this blue charisma. I think it's called, I don't know what it's called, blue or azure or something like that. It might not even have a name. But these are DK weight yarns, and I'm using a 4mm Chiagu needle. So I'm going to add in the blue, and for the first row you don't do anything special or in particular, you just add it in. So that's what I'm going to do for the first row. So there's my last thread, so I'll keep that to one side, and I'm just going to catch it with my finger at the back, and sorry, that was the wrong way around. So the stitches should be this way round, and then knit. And I'm going to do that with the whole of the row, and when I get to the end of the row I will show you what we're doing next. So I'm just going to knit that to the end of the row. Right, so I've approached the end of the row and I'm just going to knit those 2 stitches, and here we are. So we've got, that's our tail of the blue, and that is our working yarn for the burgundy, magenta, maybe magenta. I think it's more of a wine colour actually, not magenta. So magenta is slightly lighter, isn't it? Correct me if I am wrong. For all you artists out there and your colour wheels. Right, okay. So what we do then here is we slip this first stitch that we knit previously, and then we knit the next stitch like so. So at the moment I'm not going to do anything with this. I don't have to wrap it or anything. I'm going to wrap it in the next row. So here we go. We carry on and knit till we get back to that bit, to that join, if you like. Yeah. I'm at the end of the row, and this stitch is the slip stitch. So just going to knit that one. And then, I mean, it looks a bit loose here and holy. Let's just zoom in a bit. But don't worry, that's all going to pull tight. There you go. And now the next stitch we're going to slip. And now on this row I am going to wind my other yarn round, or twist round like so. So I catch it in and it doesn't create a long float. And then I'm going to carry on knitting. There. And already you can't really see the jog very well. Let's pull that bit. Yeah. It doesn't look too joggy. But when you've knit a few rows you can see it better. So I'm going to knit to the end of this row and then come back to you. That was the end of the row, and that was an extra stitch, and this is the slip stitch from the last row, if you like. And when you slip a stitch, you're not slipping the same one, you're slipping the next one. So slowly you're creeping along, and your end of row sort of changes from here to the next, to the next, to the next. So the end of the row is really the stitch before the slip stitch, and the slip stitch is the start of the next row. So I'm going to knit that slip stitch, and then I'm going to wind my yarn at the back so I don't have a long float with the wine coloured yarn, and then I'm going to slip the next stitch. So the first stitch that got slipped was this one, then that's the second, that's the third. So far we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the fourth row. So in the next row I'm going to add in the next colour. So I'm back here at the beginning of the row, and this is the slip stitch. So I'm going to knit that one. Then I'm going to slip the next stitch and add in the new colour. So I'm adding in this grey yarn. Yeah, so that stitch was slipped, and add the grey here. I'm just going to carry on until I get to this stitch, and then I will slip this stitch. So I'll knit this stitch, but then I will slip this stitch and then carry on. So I'll meet you back when I finish the row. So we're back here to where we slipped this stitch, which was the previous yarn here. So that's our slip stitch. So we're going to knit that stitch, and we're going to slip this stitch, but before we do that, or we can slip it if we want to first, whichever way, we are going to wrap both of these yarns around this yarn so we don't have the floats. It's gone a bit loose there. So you can just pull on that. That's the first stitch. And then I'm going to knit all the way to the end. So at the moment it looks like there might be sort of a gap, but that's just because it's loose, and that'll all pull in. Yeah. So here we are at the end again. That's the slip stitch, so I'm going to knit that. And then I'm going to slip the next stitch. Like so. And then I will wind this every second row. So I won't wind it now, I'll wind it on the next row. Yeah. So I'm going to knit that next, so I slipped that stitch, knitting the next one. Last stitch, slip stitch, next stitch. And that is how I am doing the Jogless Join. That looks pretty jogless. There we go. Some of it, for instance, that stitch will pull in, and that one will. If you've got sort of a tail somewhere, there you go. Jogless Join. So I'm at the end of the row and that block of colour. So I'm only going to do 3 rows for the grey, and I'm going to pick up the maroon colour again, or the wine colour, however you like to say it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap these 2 yarns, the green and the grey round. I don't really need to wrap the grey actually at this point, but the green for sure is getting wrapped. And then I'm going to slip that first stitch and carry on knitting in the burgundy colour. And I'm going to knit about 4 rows in that. So it all looks a bit weird at the back, but that's because we're catching in the threads. and I mean it'll pan out like this. You'll have this diagonal stripe when this hat is finished, but hopefully you won't see anything on the front. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, I'd say. Jogless join over 4 rows. This one was 3, but that's 4. And I think that might be 4 again. We'll see. Yeah.